Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
All right. Welcome, folks. Welcome to this episode of the Doggin Live Show. We got a lot to talk about here, and you guys are probably like, who is this guy? Well, it's Joey Ryan. Glad you could join us. Let us know if you can hear us and see us okay. What's up, Shorty? Good to see you, brother. I'm going to bring in my partner here for a change. I'm starting the show, and we'll bring in Melina Mike. What's going on, big dog?
When you say partner, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. A little bit. No, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm here. I'm burning the midnight oil. Joey says, "Hey, we gotta do a show. We got lots to discuss. Let me see if I can change around some of these backgrounds here. Where are we at, Joe? We're
You're
gonna
dogging
be.
it. Hold on, I got it. Oh no, you're dogging
We're
it.
gonna
Hold
be
on.
here. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna be here. So Joey says, "Hey, I want to do a show. I can do it a little bit late. I just came back from Austin. I barely got home a little bit ago. I'm still watching the Texas Open, by the way, on my phone. But we got a lot to discuss, man. Still.
Yeah, man. Well, let's do it. But, just to let everybody know, you and I were together out in Seattle. And then I
Right.
flew to a work thing, and you went down to the Texas Open. And great event up there, the Don Weir Memorial Tournament. You and I both played in it, both dogged our brains out. You did get one round further than me, which I don't think I'll ever live down. But
No.
but I go to work the next week. I'm in Dallas for a conference, and then I see you have an interview with the WPA, and everything just blows up from there. It's been crazy.
Yeah, the last few days have been a little nuts. I didn't, we were trying to get Ishan on whenever we were out in Seattle, but there was just a lot going on for Jason's event, and I kind of didn't want to do it in the middle of it. Plus, the schedules were pretty hectic, and we didn't know what the weekend was going to look like, and every day seemed to be more busier than the next, which was fun because I had a great time out there. I absolutely loved that trip. It was one of my favorites of all time. But come home, schedule Ishan finally, and I thought, because we've talked to him before, that would be a little kind of like par for the course. It's been like a it's been a progressive shit show with these guys from one interview to the next. As far as them kind of like, I don't want to say putting their foot in their mouth, but just not doing themselves any favor. But I thought, okay, the worst is already behind us. Ishan comes on, and the worst was not behind them. So,
Yeah, it kind of blew up from there. But just want to say hi to a few people that are in here. What's up, Paco, Rick, Robert, Heather? Thanks for joining, guys. Jennifer. So happy you guys could be on here. Don't forget to share the stream, like it, do all that stuff. Go ahead, Melina.
It's 6'5" in favor of Vitali, and he's on the 6 ball, and he just got on the 7 ball. He's 6'5", going to 9. Winner plays Tyler for the championship. So anyhow,
nice. So Melina, I don't think many people know about your big victory in Everett, Washington, over Shane Van Boening. Did you share the news? Yeah, you brought in a fish like this big, and Shane brought in one like this big.
No.
Making fun of him on that.
We caught a lot of fish. Those are just the ones that I posted. But it was funny because the very first night we get there, we got off and we landed in Seattle. Him and Jason were killing time for a few hours, waiting for me to arrive because I arrived a few hours later. Pick me up. We go straight to Everett. Don't even go to the lake house. We go straight to the boat. And we're on there. His buddy, Clay, who was a fantastic guy, took us out. Fresh salmon, smoked salmon, fresh crab right out of his boat. Best food I've ever tasted in my life. Then we're out maybe 10, 15 minutes onto the water. And Shane looks at me and he says, "Hey, you want to bet who's going to catch the biggest fish this week?" And I'm like, this But I couldn't say no, right? I had to fire at it. So we fired 100. I did not collect, but I got Shane saying I was a better fisherman. So that made the trip right there. By the way, Vitali's up 7-5 now on Shane. So
nice.
But yeah, it was a fun time. A lot of fun memories.
Yeah, and I had an interesting memory with Shane too. I'm playing on. They had two feature tables. They had table one and table two. I'm on table one, but table two was the main feature table, and Shane's playing on table two against the local guy, and he's hooked and he can't see the ball at all, and he's taking forever to look at it. And I'm playing against Dan Louie on table one, and it's a critical juncture of the match, and there's a tough cut shot on the six ball, and Shane's like sees me kind of watching him, and he's like, "Go ahead and shoot it," because it was up at his side of the table. And I was like, "No, you shoot." And Shane's like, "No, you shoot." And then I'm like, "Dang it, I got to shoot with Shane watching and everybody watching Shane." Sounds familiar, right, Melina? It's like the Vegas part.
I've heard of this story before. Yeah.
Yeah, so I cut the six ball and like it's got eyes. I come around two rails. I'm all the way down now with a long, almost straight in shot on the seven. And I'm sitting there and Shane's like, go again, because I'm right in his space again. And I'm like, I know I'm going to dog this ball. And sure enough, I missed the ball. So later at dinner, we're sitting there and I said to Melina, I was like, go tell Shane that he sharked me. And Melina
Joey thinks I'm not gonna do it. That's why
he goes up to him and he's like, Shane, why'd you shark my boy? And he's like, huh? And then he looks over at me and just starts laughing. And then he says, yeah, I know every time I let somebody shoot a shot, they're going to miss it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you do it?
He dogged it.
Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah. Hey, I saw Damien's in here from Jam Up. Damien played a great tournament up there. He got out of there quick, though, once he lost. But I think he beat Corey Deuel and a few other good players. He was cruising right along until he ran into, I think, Stan Taranjo. And, Stan was just on a mission. So congrats, Damien. That was a good showing, man.
It was a great time. Jason and his family are first class.
Definitely.
There was no detail left unchecked and unthought of by them. So I think there's a lot that they're going to do for next year as well. Hopefully we're a part of it, and I just like supporting Jason more than anything. So, but there was a lot of fun times, and besides, like going further than you in the tournament was just the icing on the cake for me.
Yeah, it was probably the low point. That was the low point of my pool career right there, I think.
Charlie. Yeah, Shane kind of arched me. We were in the car and we realized, because Clay had to dip out for the remainder of the weekend, which we were supposed to go fishing one more morning, and he wasn't going to be able to make it. So then I realized I won, and Shane was like, "Oh, we had a bet," and I said, "Oh yeah, we had a bet, all right, buddy." And so I said, just say I'm the better fisherman, and then I'm good. And so he said it. It's on camera. It's on a reel somewhere on Windows Open. And that was Everett. There was a lot of memories, and people over there were super, super nice, man. So I would love to go back at some point.
It was an amazing trip, and Jason and his family, just wonderful people, and did a great job putting it on. So guys, stay tuned for next year. I think they're going to do it even bigger up there at in Everett, Washington, for the Don Weir. It'll be the third annual Don Weir. COVID came in and messed it up a little bit, but looks like it's on track now. So let's talk WPA, Melina. And I got to admit something to you that's kind of, I would say it's embarrassing, but not really for me, kind of for them, because up until a couple years ago, when you and I started doing this and we started talking about the WPA, I really didn't know what they did. I didn't know too much about them or what role they played. And so now the fact that all this is coming up, we've learned about, I think you and I together have learned, quite a bit more about them over the last couple of years, and kind of what their role is supposed to be, and maybe areas where they're weak. And we talked before about their marketing, how like they need to do better for showing what they actually do. And then you do this interview, and Ishan comes on, and it really didn't go the way I expected. I thought that he would be kind of non-committal and not, make some of the statements that he made, but really talked about the potential for suspending players from WPA events if they play in Matchroom events. I mean, that's really just come out and say it. If they're playing in Matchroom events, potentially they could get suspended. They're going to have a meeting where they vote on this. But even in that interview that you did with Ishan, he admitted that he seems to think that people are leaning that direction, and that looks like the way it's going to go. Was that your take from it?
I mean, there's nothing else I could take from it, because he said that multiple times, and just retook his position over and over again. Something that me and Mike were not aware of. Usually when we go into an interview, and this is with most anybody, right? When it's going to be uncomfortable, when it's something talking about you want an event, a player, whatever. There's nothing dramatic or touchy that we got to touch base on. But when we know it's going to get a little dicey, hey, listen, these are some of the subjects we're going to bring up, just so you're aware. We're not having back and forth conversation about it, but they know what's coming. And furthermore, you know, they've known about this, and we've been scheduling these guys in for well over a month already. So I think back whenever I was in, we did Shane Tyree first, and that was going back to junior nationals when I was supposed to do him, and then I come back from junior nationals, and that's whenever we first interviewed him. But they're all communicating on a regular, those three guys. So they knew how they were going to do it, who was going to come first and second and third and all that. Aishan was the cherry on top. Like I said, it kind of got progressively worse each time. And to be fair, just being candid, Shane Tyree is a buddy of mine. We he helped me and Collins get the gig out there at junior nationals. I do have respect for Shane, and I wasn't as tough as I could have been on him. Now, Ishan and David, I don't know him like that, and I told him as much. Hey, listen, it might be a little tougher for those guys than it would be for you, you know. And but I didn't think it was gonna get that bad. I didn't expect what I heard from him, and since then it's just been a lot of back and forth. It seems like a lot of those guys now learn to use social media, although they could never use social media for anything productive. They're using it to, defend themselves now, or throw stones towards Matchroom.
And
I'm
you
down
a
to
little bit.
me
I mean,
me personally
well,
for sure.
like some of the comments about things being taken out of context. If you watch that interview, you see the whole context. And I don't really see where things were taken out of context. I mean, he made some pretty direct statements about what some of the federations are choosing to do and what
Right.
he anticipates, the voting to be like once they go to General Assembly, and talking about that there will be likely bans on this.
And that's what pissed me off, is whenever they start saying stuff like that. Like, I'm the one who's changing things around in order to throw more shade at them. In so many words, I'm paraphrasing, but I take that shit personally, because that's not what I did. You know, I'm cropping out quotes that dude's saying, but I'm not just saying for the one sentence that he's saying. I'm giving you before and I'm giving you after, right? And I'm showing you multiple times things that he's saying. I'm quoting direct things that he's saying on there, and I'm making posts after the fact. And they take that as, well, Mike's bashing the WPA. It's an attack on the WPA. No, MF, I'm not. I'm just letting you know what he said. You know why, Joe? Because a lot of people don't tune in for an hour and watch the whole podcast, but they will tune in for a minute here, 90 seconds
Post.
here,
Yeah.
30. Yes, they will. Now, if there were things that were, and that's why the part about them expecting it to be done in the General Assembly, I made sure to include that part in there, right? It wasn't just him saying that we talked to all these nations and they're saying pretty much, yeah. I, I can't help that he made himself look bad. I have that opinion, right? That he made himself look bad. I think everybody would agree that he made himself look bad, including the WPA, because they came out with a press release afterwards, kind of backtracking and saying, "Well, hey, listen, that's not what was, what we haven't really agreed to anything." And
Well, let's
so,
let's look at it from a different angle. Rather than making
okay,
yourself look bad, he took a strong stance about his opinion. He said numerous times in the podcast that the WPA is the authority on pool, right?
right,
And that's what they're banking on. That's where they're drawing the line in the sand, and they are the authority on pool. They don't believe a private company should be the authority on pool.
yeah,
And because of that, that's why they're taking this strong position that if
right,
you don't if you play in their events and they're dictating in their contract certain language that might prohibit you from playing in future events, then they have a right to take action against the players. And I think you and I come from a position of the players, always thinking about what's best for the players, even to the point where I piss off Matchroom sometimes because I'm thinking about rules that favor players or games that favor players or, just other options. But that's what it's all about for us, is what is in the best interest of the players. It does not appear that the WPA has had the best interest of the players over the last several years. And now you have this where they're taking a stand where they could potentially be suspending players. That's the hard pill to swallow, I think, for you and I, guys like us. And we don't have the history that Pinozo has with the WPA and, some of the contributions they made to the game. But what we do have is what we've seen over the last several years since we've been doing this, and we haven't seen much from the WPA.
Yeah, and see, I don't give that a pass because that's not my fault, right? It's not my responsibility to do that shit. Being in the position that I'm in or not, right? If they do a terrible job of marketing the things that they do, guess what? That's your fault. That ain't on me, right? I'm not here to kind of put you on a pedestal and glorify what you do or don't do, right? I'm I base my judgment off of the things that I learn. Period. You know, and when all this stuff kind of happens and goes down and you know there's all this history and you start hearing from players, people within the industry. It does piss me off that all these things have been happening for so many years. I see comments and threads all the time from players, former players, just talking about their experience with the WPA. I've gotten my phone blown up from federations. I've gotten my phone blown up by current champions, by past champions. I haven't heard one person say anything positive except for, let's say, the five, and I'm going to try to be polite here, Joe, but the five guys on Facebook who were going on there just trying to knock Matchroom and trying to discredit them. And they don't mention the fact that before they go on there and comment, that either they're a part of the BCA or a part of the WPA, or have some, or some part of the EPBF. None of
Is it
those
a fair
guys are
point? Is it a fair point that the WPA is making that a private company shouldn't be dictating, these types of things about the players, like what events they can play in? Is that a fair point?
So I take it in a couple of different ways. Number one, no one's holding a gun to anyone's head to sign that contract, right? So like if you know that's in there and that makes you uncomfortable, then don't sign it and don't play. For me, it's as simple as that. That's how I take it. On the other side of it, um, I also am more privy than others, and have seen things like world champions, top tier A1 players who were explicitly given, you know, permission, if you want to call it that, that there's not going to be any repercussions for going and playing in outside of matchroom events, i.e., the China Open and Qatar. So, and I'm not going to get into anything more specific than that, but if you're mad about some language, then don't go and play in it. Simple as that for me. Don't. But if you choose to, that's fine, and there it is. It's there for you. It's there in writing for you. So,
I mean, I'm in the camp of don't support suspending players. I
of course.
also don't support Matchroom forbidding players from playing in other 9-ball events. Not that they're doing that, but it is in their contract. I think they should just take it out of their contract. They are leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else right now in their promotion, in their payouts, in the amount of events, the amount of opportunities for players. And that's the way this thing works. People are going to come to their events because of that. They're going to come to their events because of the Mosconi Cup and
Well,
because
and
they
it's
can
still
gather
tough for
points.
them to make a living. Don't get it twisted. It's still difficult for guys to make a living. It's very, very difficult for guys to make a living. So I'm not giving them a pass on that. And I've had some candid conversations with Emily as well, privately about that. And so I can understand and respect that side of it too. But it's kind of look, it's I don't know, man. It's if you don't like it, if you don't like what rules are somewhere or what conditions are somewhere, don't go and play somewhere. You
Yeah.
know, just
Well,
just
somebody
just
brought
don't.
up kicking billiards brings up the fact about the Olympics and the International Olympic Committee. And it's one of those things where, yeah, I guess you need the WPA if this is ever going to be an Olympic sport. But does anyone actually have confidence that this will be an Olympic sport one day?
Uh, Even if it was, then what? That's the position that I would take. And then what?
Well, I
You
would
know,
say this: if it is an Olympic sport, I think it would do quite a bit for moving the needle to get more people watching it. Would you agree?
no, I wouldn't agree. Honest to
All
God, I
right
wouldn't.
then.
I think there's I think there would be some. Listen, I love the prestige of it. I like guys going out there and representing their country. I'm a diehard of diehards. I'm gonna sit there and watch. By the way, Vitali's about to beat Shane 9-5, which he just knocked in the nine
Wow.
ball. He's playing Tyler in the finals. Texas Open.
Wow.
But
Big.
massive man. That's because Vitali's the defending champion. But it's. I think that even if they were to get there, which I don't think they're going to get there. Personally, I don't. Not in the next. I would say in the next 10 years, I don't think pool is going to get in the Olympics. But I also feel like there's a place for what the WPA does. And when it comes to cultivating juniors and the way that they coordinate with federations and things like that, for that sake, that I think that there's a definite place for, and you can't argue there's success there.
Yeah, we got a few comments blowing up in here, guys. We really appreciate that. It makes the show a lot better. Bang Time Pool was saying, I just said it's not in the match room. Basically, is it in the contract or not? There is a clause in the contract
Yeah, I'm not arguing that.
that says that they reserve the right to not allow players, I guess, to play in other, world nine or other 9-ball events other than the World 9-ball tour.
Something to the effect
Um,
of you would need writing in order to go and play in another 9-ball event
you need
outside
their
of a World
permission,
9-ball. Yeah,
essentially, if you're going to play
yeah,
in something else.
yeah.
And we actually brought that up with Carl today when we had Carl on. I hope I didn't upset Carl. He hung up as soon as we were done. Didn't even stay around to chat afterwards. He's just out,
You're just
gone.
you're loving people.
Well, I mean, look, here's my thing, Mike. I want to look at both sides, and I've been struggling the last few days to try to understand the WPA's position, so
So have
that
I.
we're just not in a place where it's like, hey, we're just spewing the matchroom um, message. I mean, Matchroom's doing great things for pool. That's great. What is the WPA going to offer? And so far, I'm struggling to kind of come up with that. And even when you had Ishan on and others, they struggle to explain what it is they're exactly doing, other than being the authority. And
We are
when
the governing body. We work with federations. Blah blah blah. But you can't tell me what you
yeah, but
fucking
what
do.
what concrete things? Like, what can
Give
you
me
show
something.
us?
Give me something that I can hang on to. Something that you can show me that you go and do. And Aishan brought up. Well, we have all these events coming up in the future. The future's looking bright. We have all these. It seems like different countries and promoters wanting to add $50,000 to their events, right? And the calendar's going to look pretty good. Well, then it's probably going to look similar to what you just knocked Matchroom for being like in the last interview we had with David, which by the way was prepped by Ishan and Shane Tyree and the other guys in WPA.
What do
So
you think? Because it sounds from what Carl said today, the big sticking issue, they were going to work together. And the big issue was that Matchroom wanted to use their ranking system, and WPA did not want to accept the Matchroom 9-ball ranking system. Is that what you gather? And that's when
they
the relationship soured?
they got into a really bad deal when it comes to them selling the World 9-ball championships, and the language in there completely just undermined what they were trying to do up until that point. But they signed it; it was done. That deal is over with, right? Matchroom owns that. Now, I don't know this to be so. I haven't seen the contract yet, but I would guess that Matchroom probably asked for something along the lines that we don't want any other sanction of 9-ball events outside of our
Mhm.
own, you know?
You're
So
speculating.
it's complete speculation, 100% speculation. But that's what I would guess. Seeing as how they're putting all the money into 9-ball, I don't think that's such a terrible argument. Now, Aishan and them will say, well, we can't sell 9 ball. Okay, well then fine. That's if that's what you want to say, but then that's whenever Matchroom is taking the stance they are now, where they're saying, well, you know what, you're not benefiting us in any way. You're not serving the game. You're not helping elevate the game. You're not helping go and add value to anything that's going on. So why is it that we need you around?
Ed.
Ed, thanks for being a Patreon supporter, my man. And Ed was out there at Junior Nationals too. We hung out, we played some one pocket together, and then yeah, we're just
Ed's on the
breaking
side of the
open.
WPA here.
Well, I think Ed's one of these guys who found who found Facebook over the last week. Like Roy Pastor and Stewart, your buddy Stu. You know,
Yeah.
which, hey, listen, the window's always open for any of you guys if y'all would like to come on. If you think we're one sided and unfair, that's kind of why we brought on Aishan and the rest of them, is because I don't like just talking amongst ourselves and not giving the other side a fair argument.
Yeah, I mean, here's the
Here we go.
challenge, I would say. I'll put it out to anyone. If you want to come on and you want to show us some tangible things that the WPA has done for pool in the last 5 years, like tangible things for professional pool, right? Like you said, they're big with
Professional.
federations and the amateurs, and you're seeing the crop, especially in Europe, of young talent that's coming up through the ranks. It's great. But for professional pool, if you want to come on and explain some tangible things, we're happy to have you on. So, yeah, I guess.
I don't think they're going to be too keen on coming on after the last couple. That's just
Well, the first time we talked with Aishan, he was talking about, that they need to do a better job with marketing, that they need to improve a lot of things, right? And then this time it was such a stark contrast. Like, we are the authority, we're the governing body, and this is the way it's got to be.
I think that I feel like they know that there's areas they have to work on when it comes to marketing and showcasing some of the positive things that they do, because I do believe that there are plenty of positive things that they do, and that they have their fingers in. you know Europe is as strong as they are, I feel like, because of the WPA and their coordination with those federations. And that part I can't stand on a leg and argue with you about. But when it comes to the professional side of it, this is where I take issue. And the whole reason why I wanted to do it is because over the years of doing this show, Joe, and over the years of making friends, and listen, I've made enemies with promoters, Emily, Predator before. Right? Nobody's barred or off limits from there, including pissing off players. But over the course of talking with a lot of guys, you started to hear rumors over the years of just things that were going on, right? And things that were just unfair. And listen, we have a fun time doing this show. We have a fun time,
Yeah.
coming on here and bantering about pool and talking about professional side of the game. And then we've also dabbled into like juniors, and we've talked about amateur events that are going on across the country. So like we're slowly starting to expand our wings a little bit. But I couldn't just turn a blind eye to things that are just unfair to guys. And then you realize that nobody wants to say anything because they're afraid of repercussions that happen if they go and open their mouth publicly.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I wanted to have them on. And instead of me having an assumption or opinion based off of hearsay or facts, whatever, I'm going straight to the horse's mouth. Now, my opinion afterward is based off of things that I hear from you, but not because of hearsay or anything else. I went to the VP, EPBF, and now the president of the WPA. I don't know how more fair I can be to these guys. And so to go and have them say, well, it's an attack on the WPA or I'm taking things out of context. Listen, show me where. Show me where I did that. And now that I get annoyed and pissed off by some of the shit they say about me, that's whenever I start, needling them even more, saying, let's see
Yo,
those finances.
you were on fire, son. You just post after post,
Yep.
reels and images and quotes and everything. I was like, man, somebody's got to talk Molina off the ledge.
Yeah. No, I don't. It ain't.
Well,
it,
look,
it
there's a
ain't
common
fair.
thread here. The
Yeah.
most uncomfortable moments that we've had on this show have been at times where someone was treating the players our opinion was that somebody was treating the players unfairly.
Are you bringing up Lori John right now?
I
Is that what you're
am.
doing? You
I
are?
am. Which, by the way, I love Lori John. Even though she beat me in Everett,
I do too.
she was
I do
so
too.
cool to hang out with. I ended up commentating the finals with her. It was great. But she got kind of upset on this show, and it was all
She did.
about the issue of the WPBA restricting April Larson from playing in, from playing in their events because she played in regional events. And those are the two most controversial takes we've had, right? Where we talked to the WPBA and she was kind of a spokesperson for him at the time, and now the WPA with this issue. So, I mean, I think there's a common thread here, which is we
And,
care about the players.
and you know what? Me and her, being at Jason's event, talked about it. You know, had a lot of laughs, and she's great. You know, I got
She is
nothing
great.
negative, even though it made for an uncomfortable show. But this is why, listen, for all the shit that's been going on lately with the WPA, I do have a lot of respect for him because unlike that spineless guy Dean with the WPBA who wanted no part of me or no part of coming on the show that I was on, I'll give Ishawn and Shane Tyree and David Morris credit because they'll at least come in here onto the fire. Then they knew it was gonna be, and they knew it was gonna be an uncomfortable show. They
Question
at
is,
least,
will they come on again? I don't think so.
I don't give a shit if they do or not. I mean, I would hope if I didn't beg anybody to come on. We had a topic we were discussing that was relevant to them. The door's always going to be open no matter what, you know. And I've been a lot tougher to other people in the industry, Joe, outside WPA.
Well,
You
and
know,
for the record, Dean was going to come on, just not with you on.
yeah, well, yeah.
I love
Same
that.
shit then. Yeah, he made a specific point, but it was the same thing, like you said. It was standing up for what I felt was an injustice towards that player.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always gonna take that side because unlike the players, they can't do anything to me, right? They can't keep me from playing anywhere. They can't if they want to keep me from going somewhere. I don't have to go to their event. That's fine, you
Yeah.
know. But I'm always gonna have a
So
voice for someone who doesn't want to, who is scared to go and open their mouth. If I feel like I'm on the right side or I'm on the same side as them.
So let's put a bow around this and kind of move on to talking about pool again.
Yeah.
Uh, what are the implications here, Mike? Where do you see this going? What do you see happening? Are they going to vote on this and decide to start banning players? And if so, obviously the Europeans will probably be most impacted, but to what extent? What does it mean for them? What does it mean for a player
Hey,
like Misko Fortunski?
look, you want to talk about positive things, Joe? Look at this comment from Ed about sending April to the China Open, which I know April went to the China Open because I sent her a cue to give to Weiwei in the China Open, or for like they were happening to be at the same event. So I know you guys do a lot of good things too. And I'm sorry, Joe, what were you saying? I didn't even pay attention to what the hell you were saying.
You
I
didn't
was
pay
reading this
attention to
comment.
me? I said, let's
Shocked
put
right
a
now.
bow around this. We'll start talking pool again. The implications, like if WPA has their
Yeah,
general assembly and they vote to start banning players, or federations start banning
right.
players, what's the impact to, Wojciech or, some European player at, maybe a good pro, but maybe not the top guys like a filler or a, FSR. But what
Mhm.
are the implications for, like a Niels or somebody like that?
I think it's specific to your country and the politics and the strength of your federation. And I've been hearing from a lot of guys that are from a number of different federations. For some, it's not going to be that well, you know. And those are the guys that I truly worry about.
Give
Without
me
with
more. What do you mean? Like what do you mean
I
not well?
I don't think that the suspensions that we've been talked about are where it would end. I'll put it like that. I don't want to say any more because a lot of stuff was said in confidence. So even though like it sounds bad, what Aishan was saying, I think for some of them it can be a lot worse. So and for their sake, I hope things get figured out. I feel like whether or not they'll agree to any terms is one thing, but I'm optimistic that they'll at least this whole situation will force them to at least come back to a table at some point and discuss it, and some point in the near future.
Force
Um,
WPA.
for both of them, for Matchroom and WPA, that they're going to be forced to have a conversation because this shit is really blown up, and players are starting to let you know where they're going to be at. And I feel like in the end, there's a place for both. I do, you know, while I may not agree with one as much as I do the other, um, I still respect fundamentally what they're about. The little bit that I do understand, I respect. I'll put it like
Would the BCA ban U.S. players from competing in world championships, as an example?
they would, from my understanding, is if the WPA were to uh, were to agree to suspend players at that General Assembly, the BCA, being under the WPA umbrella, would have to follow suit and go down that same road, which would mean suspending players the likes of SVB and Sky from playing in world championships. Because if they were to be playing in matchroom events, which they've both been on the record
They will be.
publicly, yeah, yeah, they've both been on the record saying that they will be playing matchroom events. So, and you want to talk about a shitstorm? I wouldn't want to be in that position. I wouldn't want to be the one to hand down that suspension, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So,
Yeah.
um, guys want to play pool, and that's the unfortunate part. I see posts from like the Spaniards where they say we just want to play pool. I see a post from Chua and the
Chua
Filipinos, and
had
they're
a
saying,
great post. Yeah.
I just want to play pool. Don't put us in this position. You know, it doesn't have to be a pissing contest here. I get it. One side feels slighted. One side feels the other one doesn't do shit for them. I get it. Let's figure out a middle ground here. And if listen, whether these assholes can think I'm just a shit stirrer or I'm call me any name in the book or that I'm taking things that listen, if out of all this it gets them back to a table and somehow agree to something, every bit of all the drama that we've been going through is worth it, you know. And I'm not here to make anyone more uncomfortable than what it has to be, but I'm not going to accept some bullshit response either. I'm not a pool player. I'm not going to accept what you say if it doesn't hold any water. I won't. And I'm going to keep on asking. I'm going to keep on pushing. And if they think that I'm done asking questions or think that I'm done with any of this, they're sadly mistaken because I'm already way too deep now to give up on this cause.
You're like a dog on a bone.
I'm going to keep on and keep on. They can guarantee that.
Well,
So
I'm sure he'll keep everybody updated, and we'll make sure to, any new developments covered on the show. So let's talk about pool. What do we got going on? We got the Texas Open. Vitali's about to play Tyler for the final. It's true double elimination there, right, Mike?
true double elimination. They had to double dip. Tyler was looking real strong, and I made the I made the distinction that this is Tyler solidifying his place on the Mosconi Cup team. These kind of wins, and this type of event. So yeah, I think this guy, even though he's not, on a like in the position to be an automatic, I think he's as close to an automatic because of his play over the last few months. I believe
Yeah,
it, and that kid is not the same kid um, who dogs it like he has before in years past. That kid is showing a different side of his play, man.
there's a whole difference to him, Mike. Like you and I had dinner with him out at Moscone last year, and then we had dinner again with him at the Don Weir Memorial. There's just a difference to the way he carries himself, right? A few years ago, he was like that young guy who was kind of happy to be there amongst the big dogs and asking questions and gathering information. Now he belongs, right? He's at that table and he's a fixture there. He's a top
he
pro in the
was
US, and he's
he
just
had a
carrying
lot of
himself different. He's got a lot of confidence, and I'm not surprised he's doing well in the Texas Open. The way those tables break, the way he breaks, the bigger pockets. Not surprised that he's doing very well.
you know, Tyler for me kind of got kind of got ahead of himself as far as thinking that he belonged in that conversation or in that class of player before he did. Now he does. Now in my mind he does. I truly believe that. But he didn't make any friends with people thought he was arrogant or they didn't like his personality in the team dynamic and things like that. Uh, he's mature. He's not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
You can see that he's settled down, but he's also a workhorse. He's someone who is on top of his game, on top of the way that he trains. He is the epitome of an athlete. He is the most dedicated professional here in the States that we have right now, and that includes Sky and Shane and anyone else. He works harder than anyone else, treats his body like an athlete. He exercises. He does everything the right way. I think he's a great ambassador for the sport. Um, I'm happy to see his success. He was one break away from beating Shane at the Brendan Crockett Memorial. Which was a pretty brutal way to end it. I'm happy to see him have success. I think this is only the beginning. And call me crazy, but I think the 5 Americans who are going to be there in December are going to give the Europeans a lot tougher run for their money than they ever have in the last, I'd say, 5+ years,
Yeah, I
easily.
agree with that. And the joke on pool players is you get married and your game goes down. I think that's the exception with Tyler because he married a pool player, and they both have very similar philosophies. It seems, and in terms of the amount of work they do, in terms of their diet and nutrition, and they just seem to be doing everything right.
I don't want to overlook this comment from Ed because Ed has a role in the BCA. So him saying that goes a long way. And I don't think he's the only one who feels that way. I
Yeah,
think Shane Tyree feels that exact same way that Shane does, and I don't think they're saying it for the sake of saying it to look good in the public's eye. I feel like they say it because they mean it and they believe in it and they stand by it. So um, they got respect for me in that regard just for that, and I
yeah.
feel like it's genuine.
Those of you asking about the Texas Open, it's going to be on Pool Action TV. Uh, it's pay per view, but I highly recommend getting the 6 month pass for that. I think is it still $100, Melina?
Yeah, I think
120?
so. I
Yeah,
think so. Maybe
but
120.
tons of great events. It's definitely worth the money. So if you have the money, check it out and get that pass for
Yeah,
the
you were
pay
gonna
per
pay
view.
like $35 just for this one event. You get 6 months for Pool Action TV and what Ray does. So
Yeah, and it's
um,
a good variety of events too. Like there's money matches with where two players match up. It's tournaments like the Texas Open and a few others. So it's definitely worth it. Another big event this weekend, Turning Stone. Uh,
yeah,
Thoughts
yeah.
on that,
Turn.
Melina? Fedor beats Mika in the final. Apparently, Mika
I
played great.
Mika did play great. I saw a little bit of it while I was there at the Open. I was watching on my phone. I did reach out to Federer. Hopefully, we're going to get him on at some point this week. Hopefully, sooner in the week than later. He was asking what we were going to talk about. I think a lot of players are hesitant to come on right now just because they might be a little nervous about talking WPA stuff. So it's whatever he wants to discuss, we can discuss. From him winning Turning Stone through him beating Tony recently to him responding to what Shane had to say whenever I talked to Shane out there in Everett. So a few different angles to take from the kid. I also love to get Sophia Mast on. She just won the Women's Texas Open 9-ball championship. So, and the youngest female ever to win that event. So congratulations to her. We're still going to keep on. I kind of need like a little bit of a break from all this bullshit and drama because it's just kind of like sucking the life out of me. So I want to like get back to talking
Some of the
positives and talking
juniors
players
and
and
players, yeah.
yeah. Because I don't waking up and seeing messages and dealing with the drama all day long when I was with my family and hanging out at the Open. I don't I don't enjoy it, at all. So,
Yeah.
and there was a comment in there about Mika winning. Mika was in a good chance to win. I was hoping the old man was going to snap it off, but Federer's a good friend. I'm happy to see him win. He's putting himself in one of those automatic positions leading
I
into
was
the
gonna
U.S.
say, yeah.
Open. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so I mean,
and especially because of the shit he's had to deal with over the years from getting kind of, not being picked on the team, him taking an automatic spot would be great.
all
So,
right, Melina. So the way it's shaken out right now, it looks like Joshua Filler and Jason Shaw are outside of the top three, at least from the last rankings that I saw. Are
along with
they a
Alvin.
lock for the automatic, or are they a lock for the captain's choice?
Um, Josh is a lock for a captain's choice, without a doubt. I don't see any way he does not make that team. Um, I think he's still playing about as sharp as ever. I know he went deep in the European Open just recently. I feel like his game has only gotten stronger as the year has gone on. I would not be surprised to see him there on the last day at the U.S. Open. That guy just stands up for big moments, and he's not a name where you think, man, he's a name, but come to think of it, I haven't seen him in the last 2 days of an event recently, and I don't mean that throwing intentional shade, but I don't think Jason has what Josh has, and I
Yeah,
think
but then
Josh is.
Jason like kicks it in about this time of the year. Last year he wins the international in the fall and kind of goes into, it was the year that you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe Jason will kind of be a little bit of a weak link for Europe because he hasn't been playing great, and then he
He
snaps
does
off the
play
international and
well, and he does play good. He
it's
does play good in December. You can't argue what he
yeah,
does
it's
in the
this time of
Mosconi Cup.
year where he just kind of
Yeah.
starts heating up, right?
And I think that's what these rankings are gonna put Ralph Eckert in a real tough decision because David really threw a monkey wrench in everything. And now with Federer picking up 10,000, if David becomes an automatic, which nobody expected him to be up until about a month ago, right? He wins the Jacoby, I think, event out
Yeah.
in whatever it was, Scotland or something. And then he follows that up with the win at the European. If David picks an automatic, I don't think he would have made it on the wild card. So then you're going to have Filler, Jason Shaw. You're also going to have Albin on the outside looking in. On top of that, let's say Kachi comes back
Yeah, what's
sooner
his
sooner
status,
than
Mike? I know he got injured and he's going to be out for several months. But I mean, he was probably one of the hottest players on the planet when he got injured.
the hottest player. He was the best player in pool when he got injured. There's no debate about that in my book. He was the number one player in pool. He was looking like he was going to start dominating any and everything. So uh, yeah, that's also going to be something to go and discuss as well. And
I mean,
yeah,
if
we'll
you're
see.
Ralph, what do you got to see from him? I guess you got to not just see him come back and be healthy, but actually do well in an event before selection time, which I don't know that there's enough time for that.
I mean, there's a lot of events coming up now. Whether or not he'll be playing in any is going to be the thing. You know, what you've done in the first 6 months. I mean, ask Shane Wolford. This is not going to get you there in the last 6 months. So, especially on a team as deep as the Europe team is. So whether or not it's fair is another conversation. I don't. If it wasn't his arm and he was playing day in and day out, I would say put him in no matter what, right? Like if he just came down with like COVID or something, whatever, took 3 months off, whatever, right? But like that was his arm. So, and he's not going to be competing. It's very unfortunate. It's very it's yeah. I my heart goes out to him because he could have made he could have been the anchor on a team where a lot of people thought that he had no chance on making that team, myself included, unless he was an automatic pick. And instead, he then turned that around to become probably the best player in pool for the first 6 months of the year. So
Yeah. So obviously, we're not going to talk about Mosconi on every show between now and December, but this is a good point in the year to check in on things. And there has been quite a bit of body of work leading up till now, and it is a good time, I think, to start talking about Team USA and what they're looking like. And I know you have some opinions on it. Curious who your five would be.
I got four that are pretty much all but locked in for me right now. I got the guy who's playing in the finals of the Texas Open in Tyler. He's going to be automatic for me. Whether or not he's a formal automatic or an automatic wild card, he's in on that team, on my team anyway. And I would be shocked if he doesn't make it in. Shane Wolford is going to make that team. And then, of course, your A1 and A2 Americans and Sky and Shane are going to be on that team. The fifth spot, and I think those four players are gonna be tough for anyone. I do believe that, and I thoroughly believe that in a race to five, I think that they're gonna be in a really tough situation, or at least can put pressure on the Europeans rather, which is what you want. That
So
fifth
that
spot
fifth
though,
spot is going to be ultra important. So who's in the running?
no idea. I have no idea who I would put in there today. I keep on hearing names like Billy or Oscar or BJ, and I've been talking about Lucas, and um, I honestly I don't know. I think you're gonna have to see some moves be made over the next. Even I think Hunter was on that list.
Chris
Like
Reinhold.
I like Chris. I don't think he makes the team. Anything short of going deep in the U.S. Open, and I mean like probably semifinals kind of deep. I don't see any way that he makes that team, just for my money. Not saying he's not deserving of it, just from the landscape that I've seen over the last 6 months of the year. So, um, but
Earl
do,
Strickland.
do you want to see Earl on there?
No. No, and we're gonna lose half our audience right now because there's so many Earl lovers out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, if last year didn't show that that was kind of a failed experiment, not that he's not an incredible 9-ball player, and even had flashes of brilliance last year,
Yeah.
he just wasn't there. I think mentally to compete at that level anymore.
He was a liability, off the table, on the table. I get why they did it last year, for a number of different reasons, whether they felt like they owed him one from the year prior, or because of what he brings to ticket sales here in the U.S. I get that too. And he was, a decent player, in the international. So, and nobody else kind of really stood up and took the bull by the horns. Um, as far as this year, I think some of the statements that we heard in his recent interview talking about the break and knocking it, and I'm sure that will go over well with Emily. And I don't feel like Shane is necessarily bought into the Earl experiment anymore either, just from private conversations that I've had with him over the last few weeks. So, and Shane was a big part, I feel like, in getting him in there in years past. So, um, yeah, I don't see it. Who would you take, Joey, as your fifth one, or are those even your four?
Yeah, I think we're pretty we're pretty consistent there with the ones on the fringe. I'd love to see, as Carl Boyes mentioned earlier, I'd love to see, Justin Bergman get back in the
He's,
mix.
he's bringing up Damien. He's bringing up
Damian,
Damien. Jerry Stucker, Mr. WPBA, he's bringing up
Damian
Damien.
played well. Damian played well out there. Another person who played really well, and this is the thing that as a U.S. fan that we have to kind of hang our hats on is that next generation coming up, right? Who's going to be the next Shane Van Boning? Who's going to be the next Sky Woodward? And there's a lot of talented players out there. Are they going to put in the work is the question. We saw a couple this past weekend out in Seattle. Actually, it was last weekend now. But we saw Spencer Ladden. Carl brought him up earlier today. Spencer knocked Shane into the losers bracket and then got double dipped by Shane in the final. It was on bar tables, but we know Spencer can play big tables too. Very aggressive player. Like some of the decisions he made, I was like, "Whoa, brother! Hold it, slow
Spencer
down."
Spencer can play pool. Don't
He
let
can.
don't let don't let the goofy hair fool you. Spencer can play pool.
Yeah, but then what about Daniel Sardancilla? Is that how you say his name?
Sardencio, yeah,
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 well,
something
that's
like
the
that.
Spanish way to say it, but up in Seattle, it's Sardancilla, I
I
think.
thought he was. I thought it was Filipino, wasn't he?
Well, okay, maybe. This is kind of Spanish. But he's a great player, too. Watching him compete, and nicest kid. I didn't get a chance to talk to him too much, but everybody up there had great things to say about him. Younger player, great player,
Everybody had a
taller.
lot of positive things to say about that kid, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I think the future's bright. You take Lucas up in New England, a lot of BJ down in the Carolinas. Although BJ's more of a veteran, um,
Yeah.
a lot of options. What about some other players that we've heard brought up in past
Well,
years that were kind of, not really going to many of the Matchroom events, and so a lot of people would like to see them get a shot. Someone like a Josh Roberts. Any chance?
I talked to Josh at the Open, just kind of seeing where his game was at, and he was like, "I really ain't been playing a whole lot lately." And I'm like, "Josh, I see you hitting balls all the time." He said, "Yeah, you see me hitting balls at tournaments." So, when Josh is there, Josh is a great 9-ball player. I think the Mosconi Cup is kind of a different beast, no pun intended. But I think Josh could get there if Josh had the support and was a little bit more dedicated to it with that support. He's got the skill set to do it if he were to go and progress. And Roberto says, Oscar, listen, everybody knows Oscar's my boy. I'm always going to root for him and want him on that team. I know what he's made of. I don't think he's done enough this year so far, and I think he would agree with you there. But I can tell you he's gonna be getting ready for that U.S. Open. He just came back from Turning Stone. He made up a little bit of ground when it comes to points there, and I'm gonna make sure that his prep is where it needs to be come the U.S. Open in a few weeks. So, and I'm hoping he can make a run, and that's the beauty of the rankings. It's one good run at the U.S. Open. You're really right back in the mix just because of where everything stands right now. So,
The guy I'm looking at, Molina, if he makes a good run in the U.S. Open, I think it's going to be him, and that is Billy Thorpe.
I keep on hearing
There's
that name a lot. I
lot
don't
of great history there with him in the Mosconi Cup, and I
agreed.
feel like if you have to get to the point where you can say Billy is back, right? We haven't gotten to that point yet. We're getting closer, and it seems like he's starting to dedicate himself more, and he's starting to do better. But when he's back, I think he's got to be in that conversation. He's got to be one of the five.
Roberto says Mike DeShane. Let me tell you something. Molina Mike's got a better shot at making Mosconi Cup than Mike DeShane has. Okay, I can tell you that. No, when it comes to Billy, I was talking with Carl Honey out there at the Texas Open. We were talking about Billy, and he was talking about the intangibles and the leadership and his experience, and I can't argue any of those things. But and he's been attending a lot of events, which is great. I just don't know if he's done enough to kind of like solidify his position. I mean, he's obviously going to be a part of the conversation, but I don't know. Personally, I don't. I think it's still up for grabs, and he can do it if he plays well at the U.S. Open. Yeah.
All right, I'll throw out one other player's name that has a pretty high Fargo rate. Has had some success in events, but I never really hear his name brought up for Mosconi consideration. How about Jeremy Seaman?
Uh, yeah, another working man, kind of akin to what Ed said earlier, and Robert Frost. Guys who are solid American players. I don't know that I've seen Jeremy play anything outside of a Predator event. Like as far as a major. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, could he play his way onto the team? Sure. Jeremy Saucy could. There's a lot of guys who could. You know,
Sauce?
Sauce. Yeah, a lot of these guys could.
Jeremy,
Um,
my dream is to commentate a match with Jeremy so I can say and watch him hit a masse, and I say Jeremy Sauce hit a masse,
yeah, yeah.
and then put
You're,
you on tilt.
you're trying to put me on tilt worse than the WPA right now, buddy. All right. Now, I'll still, you talked about youth. I'll still stand by, what I said earlier in the year in a kid like Lucas, and
Yeah.
I've seen that kid play a little bit. He didn't have the showing that I was hoping he would have at Turning Stone. He was one of the names that I was kind of really keeping an eye on when I'm scoreboard watching. But yeah, there's other guys that people brought up Joey Tate. And
Like
I think he's going to be playing the U.S. Open.
If Billy doesn't make a statement in the U.S.
Excuse
Open,
me.
if he doesn't make a statement, I think Jeremy is going to go with the youth, and I think a player like Joey Tate has a really good chance. And here's why: in past years, obviously Jeremy's trying to win every year. Okay, now he's an ambassador for the players. He's connected with Matchroom. Even if he's not going to be the U.S. captain, he's going to be around for a while in the Matchroom scene, right? And I think it's time to think big picture. It's time to think not just this year. It's
Who
time to
is that?
think,
Jeremy? You think Jeremy's thinking that?
yeah,
No, no,
it's
no. I
time to
think
think
I think
3
if I
years,
think
5
yeah,
years, 7 years down the road for the
yeah.
United States to be able to compete. We need a Joey Tate. We need these younger players to get that opportunity, get that taste of it, get that seasoning.
If you're Jeremy Jones, this is the year you got to perform, and Jeremy would
Why?
even tell you that because
Why?
because I feel like you got to win if you're Jeremy Jones this year.
Okay. And if he doesn't win, like I said, he's still a player ambassador through Matchroom, does all the commentating there.
Oh
He's
yeah,
still,
yeah, yeah, for
I'm
sure.
saying, like
Yeah,
in past years, it wasn't that way. And so he may have felt more pressure to win it that year. And he might not be the Mosconi captain, next year if they get blown out this year or they don't do very well. But I think Jeremy sees big picture, and he would want to see the U.S. winning 5 years from now, 7 years from now. And in order to do
Agreed.
that, we need some of these younger players to get that seasoning.
I'm not going to argue with the bigger picture aspect of it. I just think that if you're Jeremy, you got to put a guy who's going to get you, a few points this year for sure. I hear Bergman's named a lot. I would love to see Justin put in there. I would love to see Tony on that team. Call me crazy, but I'm
Tony
a
who?
big Tony Chohan, my man T Rex. I would love to see a guy like Tony on there, and let him go up there with the Jays and his saggy shorts, and he's only gonna have one
Got to wear
cue.
pants.
He's gonna have one cue to break with, one cue to jump with, one cue to shoot with.
It'd be beautiful. It'd be beautiful if it kind of came down to the last day. Let's say Chohan's on a team, right? It comes
imagine
down.
him talking a filler in his ear and just kind of
hold on,
put the
check it
microphone
out.
on him.
It come down to the very last day, right? And the U.S. is in a position where they need to play their big dogs early, and all of a sudden it's Chohan against Filler for all the marbles, right? And Chohan comes up with a shot where he's like totally trapped, doesn't know what to do, and just plays an amazing one pocket shot to lock up Filler, and an incredible safety, and then he ends up getting ball in hand and runs out. That's the way I see it working.
Some of the best matches in Mosconi Cup history were, big moving games. You wouldn't think Tony would be a favorite in that. Tony, and listen, don't let it fool you. Tony can play rotation. Tony can play really solid rotation. I'm not saying he's going to beat anyone in a race to 100, anybody on Team Europe for that matter. But in a race to 5, Tony can do it. Now the problem with Tony is that he may be betting on sports while it's 1-1 on his phone. That might be the issue with him.
Posting Q raffles.
You never know with Tony, right? He might be.
I love that guy.
He'll be taking a selfie and posting his Mosconi Cup jersey for sale before he ever hits a ball. So
hey, if we're gonna take a one pocket player and we're gonna put him in Mosconi, I'm going with Josh Roberts first. That's just me.
I'd think over Tony?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, man!
I love Josh. I love his game. I think he's got a very high gear. I like him. I'd love to see him in that event, and a lot of other people agree with me.
I just think Tony's been in bigger spots than Josh has. But I really am speaking. No, just in general. I feel like just in general. But like,
listen, if Tony plays $100,000 one pocket sets.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, if I'm going to compare the two, and I'm thinking about, obviously, none of them have been on that stage before. Then I start looking at other factors, and Tony being in pressure spots for whatever reason, I'm going to take him because I feel like he's more equipped. Where I feel like a lot of the other parts of their game is close to even. Casey says throw little lads in the box. Listen, you want to talk about a kid who's going to be on the Mosconi Cup the next few years? I would say if that kid keeps playing the way he's playing, he'll be on the Mosconi Cup in the next 5 years. That's what I believe.
Need to go state. We need to do a show, Mike. We need to go state by state and break down the top players in each state.
50. How many states they got? Like 50,
I don't
52,
know, but it'd be fun. Like, I mean, I think about because I used to live in Florida, right? There's great players in Florida that don't get out of Florida much that a lot of people don't know about. Anthony Maglino, he's a great player. He's probably
Donnie
like a
Mills.
7. Yeah, Donnie Mills. Donnie, I mean, Donnie's a great player. I mean, say what you want.
Donnie will be arguing for Donnie will be arguing for the temperature in the room to be changed. He'll be checking the weight of the cue ball.
I think he likes some Matchroom conditions. But this is the beautiful part about our game. And people are commenting in here and they're saying stuff about this player, that player. Somebody said, glad you're talking about the Pacific Northwest. I was really impressed when we got up there and we saw Daniel play and we saw some of the other local players. I mean, there was guys in there, 715 Fargo. I never heard of them, and they're in there playing great pool.
And there was guys who were right at 700 who couldn't win a match.
British Columbian players like Stan, okay. Can we, before we get off, can we just describe this moment that happened between Rob Saez and Stan Taranjo. They're playing their hill, right? Rob's out of line on a ball. What was it? The 6 ball, Mike? I think it was the 6 ball. And I'm commentating the match, and I got Spencer Ladden in my ear right behind me, and he's like, bank it. And I'm like, you can't bank this ball. You got to play safe. You can put him on the bottom rail, take the cue ball up to the top rail, and you have a good chance to even hide him. And sure enough, Rob, the veteran he is, plays a great safe, hides the 6 ball down the bottom, cue ball up on the top rail, side pockets pretty much like taking away a one rail kick. And I'm like, this is why you do this, Spencer. Well, what do you know? Stan Taranjo steps up. He hits this ball, comes in just past the side pocket, like tightens up the angle, cuts the 6 ball all the way across the bottom rail into the corner at Hill. I mean, for your money, that's like one of the most clutch shots you'll ever see. And by the way, that was like the 6th ball I saw him kick in 3 matches. That guy can freaking kick balls. It was unbelievable. So I just had to highlight that moment. But I guess my point is, if we went state to state and talked about all these great players, I think it would be really cool. Because everybody has their local favorites and the people that maybe you haven't heard too much about. It's just kind of neat.
How many states are we gonna get into one show though? Is my thing. We gotta figure this. We gotta plan this out. There's a lot of states.
We can move quick.
Look, that shot was pretty tough. Rob got back to the table when he had no business being at the table, and then he gets a little funny on that ball. I think the shot he laid down on Stan was pretty solid. I think it was solid.
It was the right shot.
By the way,
best part about it, Stan kicks the ball in, and Spencer's right here in my ear still. He's like, "That's why you bank it. Don't let the guy come to the table."
I would have banked the ball too, though. But I'm a donkey, and I'm terrible at pool, and I would have banked that ball too, just because you're playing on the bar table. You gotta fire at it. So
yeah, but that's the thing, Mike.
Stan came with an amazing shot. That's part of why I love pool. You get stories like that and moments like that, and the whole room kind of blew up. And
he's such a favorite up there. Even though he's in Canada, it's right across the border there. And I'm sitting downstairs in the basement commentating off the videos feed. And you just hear the place erupt right when you watch the shot, because it's like a second or two ahead. Unbelievable. Like everybody's rooting for him, because not that they don't like Rob Saez, but he's, he lives in Louisiana now, and their local guy is up there playing him.
And poor Rob. Rob had a hell of a tournament. And Rob, I thought was going to get to the final midway through that final day.
Rob's playing great.
Rob plays the bar table super strong.
Rob's playing great.
Yeah, like if they were a bar table Mosconi Cup, he may be on the team. I'm just saying. Yeah. He plays super solid. It was pretty brutal though, the way that it ended for him.
Hey Mike, can you block people from this chat? Because Jerry Stuckert needs to be. Can you just
listen? If anybody knows
that guy.
If anybody knows how to block someone on Facebook or YouTube from annoying me in the chat, it's me. I got the blocking part.
Let me tell you something,
in, buddy.
I couldn't do anything to win a match. I got to tell you, I'm beating Dan Louie. What was it, 6-3 or something? 6-3. And I got a 6 ball that my 8-year-old son can make like 100 out of 100 times. And I just decide, you know what? Instead of just punching this ball out, I'm just going to draw the ball. And of course I miscue. And all of a sudden Dan Louie just goes crazy from there and starts playing perfect pool. And so I lose to him 7-6. And then I'm beating Lori John 4-1 on cruise control. Dogged it. Lori John comes back. She played like it was like 1992 or something. Played great pool on me.
Yo, you don't even. Yeah, you really did, man. She's gonna be pissed at you now. Joey was on tilt the whole day. I mean, just the whole weekend, Joey was on tilt. I was having to talk him off the ledge multiple times.
I'm sitting here giving you a hard time, like you're playing Margaret Fefilova in the first round, and I'm like, "What is it? A race to 7? I'll take Margaret -8."
That's what he said. And I got to 5. What were we doing? Race to 7?
5-5. You had her.
And she got lucky to hook me the way she did. She got lucky. and then I almost cross banked it, almost made both balls. Both balls hit in the hole.
What
She
did she
makes
say
that.
after she beat you?
She said you kicked the ball real well because I kicked the ball in twice on her.
Oh,
Um,
really?
that was it. No, Margaret's great.
Didn't she say something like, I didn't even know you played pool?
Well, that part too, yeah. But I don't play pool, so that was a very fair statement for her to make. But no, I enjoyed myself. I had a good time with it. I won one, and then went on jumping off the bridge after my last match. But yeah,
It was a
I
race.
much
It was a race to get the Puget Sound to see who could throw our cues in the water first, I think.
I much rather be talking about pool than playing pool. I'll say that. And listen, I'm watching Tyler play in the finals. Shane made it to the got third in Texas Open. They've been playing pool for well over a month. Like the more that just this past few weeks has taught me is just more respect that I have for a lot of these guys and what they're doing because they're literally traveling across the world and playing day in and day out, long days, long nights. They're still
Yeah.
eating well and exercising well, and then they're having to just fade like different time zones and just so many different variables. It's not easy to do. The fact that they do it consistently and at such a high standard just makes me in awe. And this is part of why I love the sport, man. It's why I love the players. It's why I love watching pool. It's just getting to see a lot of these things firsthand. So, which we
Yeah,
will
man.
be seeing a lot more of them firsthand because I will be going out to the U.S. Open. I don't know if Joey's going to be able to make it out
Am I invited?
or not. You are invited for sure. You definitely are invited. It's going to be. We're going to have a pretty. I mean, after the
You got
interview
a
with
sofa?
Carl,
You and Oscar have a sofa for me?
after the interview with Carl, I don't know if you'll be allowed in the building. I know I'll be
Come
allowed
on.
in the
I was
building.
just
Here
look,
we go.
let
Here
me
we
say
go.
this. Melina, seriously, like we have to be as impartial as possible. And we have to look at all angles of something. And as much as I love Matchroom events, I also have to say, you know what, I don't like that you have that language in your contract. Or I have to say I don't like the fact that you're, crapping on other pool games. I have to tell him that.
Well, yeah, I
And
wasn't buying the. I
it's not
wasn't buying the
disrespectful
10.
in any
I don't
way.
even know how we got to the 10 ball conversation this morning, and
Carl
that part.
did. Carl brought it up. He's like, and we throw an extra ball on the table. And I'm like, come on, Carl. When you were a player, you preferred 10 ball. And he's like, yeah, in big money matches, And so that's it. It's no disrespect to them. But at the same time, I have to call it like I see it. I call balls and strikes.
I call it too. I feel like to an
No,
extent, but if I don't like,
you're
listen,
like, I'm going to call you Melina Matchroom from now on.
that fucking nickname may stick if you keep on saying that. Lately, we only got a few people watching this evening, but
Ed's got my back there. Ed,
Ed will
let's
never.
make that let's
Ed's
make that
working on the
viral.
meme. He's working on the meme as we speak, buddy. No, listen.
All right.
If I don't buy the bullshit, I'm not gonna pretend I buy the bullshit for the sake of being impartial. I don't. And if I felt like if they had something that they could legitimately go and stand on, I would say, you know what, you're right. And uh, listen, people forget I've called that Matchroom for a lot of other things before in the past. I mean, a lot of other before I even could spell WPA. I was talking shit about Matchroom and things that they were doing that I didn't really like. So, um, but listen,
Well, let's do this,
I
man. I was so excited to get back on the mic with you after hanging out together
likewise.
up in Everett, Washington. We did a show up there. It was kind of cool. It had a little cockpit background. It was kind of neat. And then hearing about this interview with the WPA, watching the interview, and then you and I having a few little conversations here and there, talking to Carl Boys this morning. I needed to get back on here. In fact, I left 30 people in my house. I'm out in my office right now. There's 30 people in my house hanging out with my family. My wife had a
Allegedly,
potluck. And I was like, hey, I'm going to have to go and do a podcast with Melina at 8 o'clock my time or 9 o'clock. And she's like, no, you're not. And so we pushed it back an hour. Thank you. But I needed to come out here and talk to you, man. Keep
I
up the good work.
I
You're doing
hope
good stuff. Don't get too crazy though with all the postings and people see it for what it is, Mike.
Oh man, some of these motherfuckers just get on my nerves. That's they just annoy me sometimes, and then I just do it just to be a little petty and a little spiteful. I'll try to be more Pinoz. I think sometimes what would Mike do, not me. What would Mike Pinozzo do? And the problem is that I'll do first, and then I'll ask Mike afterwards. But
Three words: professional. Be
you're
professional.
you're barking up the wrong tree. Hey, listen, I do hope we get to a point. All jokes aside, I hope we get to a point where all these things
Yeah.
become in the past. I hope they figure it out. And then you know what? I'll be glad to have any of those guys on and start talking about all the great things that they're doing for the junior programs in places all across the world, all the things they're doing to grow sports, all the things they're doing to help grow the game. I'll be happy to showcase and highlight them and talk about it any day of the week with them. You know,
We'll
but
be
in the
at the
mean,
World 9-Ball Championship having cocktails with Emily and Ishan.
well,
Let's do it.
I wouldn't go that far. You for
Okay.
sure won't. You for sure won't be invited on the match. Maybe Ishan might invite you, but for sure me ain't gonna invite you. No, listen, we're gonna have a lot of stuff planned for the rest of the week. I reached out to Feder to see if he'd come on. I'm probably gonna see if Sophia can come on, and then I'm sure we're gonna be talking a lot more stuff.
Hey, make
In the
sure
next
you
few
invite me to
days.
what you're doing this week, okay?
Well, what are your plans for this week? Are you gonna be able to come on,
Working, but I'll
or
find time.
am I gonna hear from you in like 3 months from now?
No, I'm
What's
here.
what's the over under?
I'm
What's
back,
the
man.
over?
I'm back. I'm feeling, I'm not feeling that much better, Mike, dealing with my health stuff, but I'm just pushing through, because it's what you got to do.
I
So,
love having you here. You give the show balance. Uh, a lot of people love hearing from you. They feel like I'm just a jerk, and Joey's the one Joey's the one that's fair and all these things. And we need you on the show, buddy. I love having
apparently
you.
Matchroom doesn't feel that way. But
Well, you can't win them all, man. So I mean, you couldn't win one in Everett. You're not gonna win them all here, buddy. So on that note, we will see you guys later. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We know it was late, but thanks a lot for sticking with us. We'll be back. Keep your notifications on, and Ed, check your email. We'll get you on the show.